Some discoveries are so chilling that they send shivers down our spine. These unsettling finds, hidden in the most remote of landscapes, challenge our understanding of the world. They reveal secrets long buried, hint at dark histories, or expose mysteries that defy explanation. These finds often evoke a sense of fear and awe, reminding us of the eerie possibilities that exist beyond our everyday understanding. What are some of these discoveries? And how do they affect our everyday reality? Join us as we explore why this chilling discovery should have been kept a secret. A chilling discovery from the heart of Africa should have been kept a secret. In the rugged terrain where miners work daily, a massive drilling tool has emerged, unlike anything ever seen before. Unearthed during routine mining operations, this enormous circular machine, adorned with formidable spikes, has sparked intrigue among experts and enthusiasts alike. The discovery, reminiscent of modern machinery yet so ancient, has left many to wonder about its origins and purpose. The sheer size and complexity of this drilling machine suggest a level of engineering prowess that defies its time. This amazing piece of machinery is evidence that ancient human civilizations might have achieved levels of sophistication long before our history books ever imagined. The discovery has sparked debate among scholars and conspiracy theorists about its origins. However, this is just the beginning. Moving on, we will encounter more chilling discoveries like this one. A massive slab of stone discovered in Glasgow, Scotland, is a chilling relic of prehistoric times. This ancient artifact, measuring 43 feet by 26 feet, is adorned with geometric decorations known as cup and ring marks. These intricate designs were etched thousands of years ago and have captured the imagination of archaeologists and historians alike. Although similar markings have been found at various ancient sites around the world, the Cocknow stone is hailed as one of the finest examples of this type of prehistoric art in Europe. The Cocknow stone was first identified and recorded in the latter years of the 19th century by James Harvey, John Bruce, and William Donnelly. The site became a tourist attraction after Ludovic Mclellan painted the surface of the stone with oil paintings in 1937. The prehistoric symbols and natural marks were painted white and green, and Mann covered the stone with an elaborate yellow, blue, and red grid based on megalithic measurements and cosmological tales of his own devising. This led to the site being scheduled and given legal protection immediately. However, as more visitors came to the site, and urbanization brought large populations to the area, the Cocknow stone became an increasing focus for new markings and graffiti with names, initials, and dates scraped onto the surface of the stone. After decades of trying to manage the site, it was finally decided to bury the stone for its protection without any consultation or warning in the spring of 1965 on the order of the Ancient Monuments Board. However, it would not stay buried for long. In 2016, Glasgow University, Factomart, and the local community uncovered the Cocknow stone for 10 days to allow the surface of the stone to be recorded by laser scanning and photogrammetry. This event was important because it opened up a dialogue with the local community, many of whom visited the excavations and shared their memories of playing on the Cocknow stone as children. In the rugged and remote region of northwestern Australia lies a place that has captured the imagination of paleontologists and dinosaur enthusiasts alike. The largest known dinosaur footprints have been discovered in Western Australia, including 1.7-meter prints left by gigantic herbivores. Up until its discovery, the biggest known dinosaur footprint was a 106 centimeters track discovered in the Mongolian desert. At the new site, along the Kimberley shoreline in a remote region of Western Australia, paleontologists discovered a rich collection of dinosaur footprints in the sandstone rock, many of which are only visible at low tide. The prints, belonging to about 21 different types of dinosaurs, are also thought to be the most diverse collection of prints in the world. The remarkable team that made this discovery was led by Professor Steve Salberry. The giant footprints are no doubt spectacular. Steve Salisbury, the lead author of the study and a professor at the University of Queensland, told CNN of the record-setting fossil. "There's nothing that comes close to this length. The track belonged to a sauropod, a long-necked herbivore." Salisbury said the conditions on the Dampier Peninsula were ideal for both the creation of these tracks and their preservation, which is why the find was so spectacular. His team conducted more than 5 years of work in the area. "This is the most diverse dinosaur track fauna ever recorded," Salisbury said. "If we went back in time 130 million years ago, we would have seen all these different dinosaurs walking over this coastline. It must have been quite a sight. The Shroud of Turin is one of the most chilling religious artifacts in existence. This ancient linen cloth bears the image of a man who appears to have been crucified. For centuries, believers have revered the shroud as the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ, with an image miraculously imprinted on it. The history of the shroud is long and complex. It first appears in historical records in the mid-14th century. Historical records indicate that a shroud bearing the image of a crucified man appeared in the village of Liry, in north-central France, around 1353 to 1357. It was owned by a French knight, Geoffroy de Charny, who passed on during the Battle of Poitiers in 1356. In 1390, the Bishop of Troyes, Pierre d'Arcis, who had jurisdiction over the church in Liry, wrote a lengthy memorandum to anti-Pope Clement VII, recognized as Pope by the Church in France during the Western Schism, declaring that the shroud was a forgery and that a previous Bishop of Troyes, Henri de Poitiers, had identified the artist who made it. Since the 17th century, the shroud has been displayed in a chapel built for that purpose by Guarino Guarini. Repairs were made to the shroud in 1694 by Sebastian Valfer to improve the repairs of the Poor Clare nuns. Further repairs were made in 1868 by Princess Maria Clotilde of Savoy. The shroud remained the property of the House of Savoy until 1983, when it was bequeathed to the Holy See according to the terms of the will of former King Umberto II of Italy. The shroud was first photographed in 1898, during a public exhibition. A fire, possibly caused by arson, threatened the shroud on April 11, 1997. In 2002, the Holy See had the shroud restored. The cloth backing and 30 patches were removed, making it possible to photograph and scan the reverse side of the cloth, which had been hidden from view. A faint part image of the body was found on the back of the shroud in 2004. Located in Cianjur, West Java, this massive structure has been a source of intrigue for both geologists and archaeologists for decades. What makes Gunung Padang so extraordinary is that it might be the oldest pyramid in the world, possibly dating back to the Ice Age. Archaeologist Lutfi Yondri from the Bureau of Archaeology in Bandung has estimated that the structures at Gunung Padang may have been built sometime between the 2nd and 5th centuries CE, during the Indonesian late prehistoric period. Meanwhile, Harry Truman Simanjuntak has suggested a later date in historical times, between the 6th and 8th centuries CE. Pottery fragments found at the site were dated by the Bureau of Archaeology from 45 BCE to 22 CE. Danny Hilman Natawijaya, an Indonesian geologist, has claimed that the site had been built as a giant pyramid 9,000 to 20,000 years ago, implying the existence of an otherwise unknown advanced ancient civilization. The story of Gunung Padang begins in the late 19th century when Dutch settlers first documented the site. Dutch historian Rogier Verbeek mentioned the existence of the Gunung Padang site in his book. According to him, on the mountaintop Gunung Padang, near Gunung Melati, a succession of 4 terraces is connected by steps of rough stone, paved with rough flat stones, and decorated with numerous sharp and columnar upright andesite stones. On each terrace is a small mound, probably a grave, surrounded and covered with stones and topped with 2 pointed stones. Gunung Padang was largely forgotten until 1979, when a group of local farmers rediscovered it. The first 5 discoveries on this list have ranged from religious artifacts to pyramids and a drilling tool that sends chills down the spine of whoever saw it. But we're not done, we are just getting started. The Dead Sea Scrolls are ancient manuscripts that were discovered between 1946 and 1956 in 11 caves near Khirbet Qumran, on the northwestern shores of the Dead Sea. They are approximately 2,000 years old, dating from the 3rd century BCE to the 1st century CE. Most of the scrolls were written in Hebrew, with a smaller number in Aramaic or Greek. Most of them were written on parchment, with the exception of a few written on papyrus. The vast majority of the scrolls survived as fragments, only a handful were found intact. Nevertheless, scholars have managed to reconstruct from these fragments approximately 950 different manuscripts of various lengths. The manuscripts fall into 3 major categories: biblical, apocryphal, and sectarian. The biblical manuscripts comprise some 200 copies of books of the Hebrew Bible, representing the earliest evidence for the biblical text in the world. Among the apocryphal manuscripts, works that were not included in the Jewish biblical canon, are works that had previously been known only in translation or that had not been known at all. The first 7 Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered by chance in 1947 by Bedouin, in a cave near Khirbet Qumran on the northwest shore of the Dead Sea. 3 of the scrolls were immediately purchased by archaeologist E.L. Sukenik on behalf of the Hebrew University, the others were bought by the Metropolitan of the Syrian Orthodox Church in East Jerusalem, Mar Athanasius Samuel. In 1948, Samuel smuggled the 4 scrolls in his possession to the United States. It was only in 1954 that Sukenik's son, Yigal Yardin, also an archaeologist, was able to bring them back to this country. The discovery of the Ulfbert swords gives us a glimpse into how weapons were used to wage war in the days of old. Researchers have uncovered approximately 170 of these Viking super swords. They date from the 9th century to the 11th century and are all inscribed with a single word, Ulfbert, which some believe is linked to the identity of their maker, and 2 crosses. One of the most perplexing things about the Ulfbert is the strength of the metal from which they were made. The material, known as crucible steel, is so strong and pure that it seems inconceivable that any blacksmith of that time could have handled it. In fact, since the age of the Ulfbert, this quality of steel was not seen again in Europe for over 1,000 years. However, at the time the Ulfbert swords were being forged, similar weapons were also being produced in the Middle East. The latter were made of so-called Damascus steel, which comes from a raw material known as wood steel and originates in Asia. Both Damascus steel and crucible steel have been found to contain unusually high amounts of carbon. A team of Swedish divers in the summer of 2011 decided to go diving into the ocean in search of treasures or shipwrecks, but not in a million years would they have imagined that they would find what they did. According to the team leader, Peter Lindberg, they had been out for 9 days, and they were quite tired, and they were on their way home, but they made a final run with a sonar fish, and suddenly they stumbled upon this discovery. In a radio interview, Lindberg gave a more detailed explanation of what the team saw. It has these very strange stair formations, and if it is constructed, it must have been constructed tens of thousands of years ago before the Ice Age, he said in a radio interview, according to NBC News. He also acknowledged that it could be a natural formation, like a meteorite. And that was pretty much fair play to let our imaginations run wild. Were these parts of a crashed UFO? A shipwreck? The lost city of Atlantis? A meteorite? Whatever it was, it seemed to be utterly bizarre, a mystery. A chilling site located in Turkey's Urfa region near Syria, Göbekli Tepe is considered the world's oldest known unearthed temple. This temple was discovered by German excavator and archaeologist, Klaus Schmidt. The site's original excavator, Klaus Schmidt, had described it as a sanctuary used by groups of nomadic hunter-gatherers from a wide area, with few or no permanent inhabitants. The site was first used at the dawn of the Southwest Asian Neolithic period, which marked the appearance of the oldest permanent human settlement anywhere in the world. Prehistorians link this Neolithic revolution to the advent of agriculture, but disagree on whether farming caused people to settle down or vice versa. Göbekli Tepe, a monumental complex built on the top of a rocky mountaintop, with no clear evidence of agricultural cultivation produced to date, has played a prominent role in this debate. Archaeological evidence suggests that the inhabitants processed cereal at the site, though it is unclear whether it was wild or cultivated. This prehistoric temple has a unique design. The first circular compounds appear around the latter half of the 10th millennium BCE. They range from 10 to 30 meters in diameter. Their most notable feature is the presence of T-shaped limestone pillars evenly set within thick interior walls composed of unworked stone. For such circular structures have been unearthed so far. Geophysical surveys indicate that there are 16 more, enclosing up to 8 pillars each, amounting to nearly 200 pillars in all. 2 taller pillars stand facing one another at the center of each circle. Whether the circles were provided with a roof is uncertain. Stone benches designed for sitting are found in the interior. Many of the pillars are decorated with abstract, enigmatic pictograms and carved animal reliefs. The pictograms may represent commonly understood sacred symbols, as known from Neolithic cave paintings elsewhere. The reliefs depict mammals such as lions, bulls, boars, foxes, gazelles, and donkeys, snakes and other reptiles, arthropods such as insects and arachnids, and birds, particularly vultures. Vultures also feature prominently in the iconography of Catalhoyuk and Jericho. Few humanoid figures have appeared in the art at Göbekli Tepe. Some of the T-shaped pillars have human arms carved on their lower half, however, suggesting to site excavator Schmidt that they are intended to represent the bodies of stylized humans or perhaps deities. Many secrets lie buried, but a remarkable discovery has stirred the minds of scientists and enthusiasts alike. A colossal megalodon shark tooth, an ancient relic from an era when these very ancient predators were the apex predators of the oceans with unparalleled ferocity, has been found. The gold-colored tooth, which is 2.7 inches long, was discovered more than 10,000 feet below the surface near the Johnston Atoll in the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument, around 800 miles south of the Hawaiian Islands. The discovery is the first in situ observation and sampling of a megalodon tooth in the deep sea, meaning researchers found the fossil in its original resting place. Most deep-sea fossils are collected by dragging nets along the ocean floor, so researchers miss out on important information such as their precise location, according to a statement released by the Ocean Exploration Trust on January 4. Megalodon was the largest shark to have ever lived, growing up to at least 49 feet long and potentially up to 65 feet long. The massive predators were top of the ocean food chain from around 20 million years ago until their extinction around 3.6 million years ago. Megalodon teeth are relatively common fossils. Each megalodon had around 276 teeth, and they lived in the oceans around the world. However, most of these fossils are discovered on land near shorelines or rivers rather than in the deep sea, which is rarely explored, according to the statement. Researchers aboard the Ocean Exploration Trust's Nautilus exploration vessel were collecting samples around the Johnston Atoll in June 2022 to study its deep-sea geology and biology. They deployed a remotely operated vehicle, called Hercules, to film and collect the samples, which were then sent to the University of Rhode Island for processing. There, researchers found the tooth in one of the samples and suspected it came from a megalodon. Study co-author Dave Ebert, a researcher at the Moss Landing Marine Laboratories in California, later confirmed the tooth came from a megalodon. The Rosetta Stone is a stele of granodiorite inscribed with 3 versions of a decree issued in 196 BC during the Ptolemaic dynasty of Egypt, on behalf of King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. The top and middle texts are in ancient Egyptian using hieroglyphic and demotic scripts, respectively, while the bottom is in ancient Greek. The decree has only minor differences across the 3 versions, making the Rosetta Stone key to deciphering the Egyptian scripts. The stone was carved during the Hellenistic period and is believed to have originally been displayed within a temple, possibly at Sais. It was probably moved in late antiquity or during the Mamluk period and was eventually used as building material in the construction of Fort Julian near the town of Rashid, or Rosetta, in the Nile Delta. It was found there on July 1799 by French officer Pierre-François Bouchard during the Napoleonic campaign in Egypt. It was the first ancient Egyptian bilingual text recovered in modern times, and it aroused widespread public interest for its potential to decipher this previously untranslated hieroglyphic script. Lithographic copies and plaster casts soon began circulating among European museums and scholars. When the British defeated the French, they took the stone to London under the terms of the capitulation of Alexandria in 1801. Since 1802, it has been on public display at the British Museum almost continuously, and it is the most visited object there. The Rosetta Stone is listed as a stone of black granodiorite, bearing 3 inscriptions found at Rosetta, in a contemporary catalogue of the artifacts discovered by the French expedition and surrendered to British troops in 1801. At some period after its arrival in London, the inscriptions were coloured in white chalk to make them more legible, and the remaining surface was covered with a layer of carnauba wax designed to protect it from visitors' fingers. This gave a dark colour to the stone that led to its mistaken identification as black basalt. These additions were removed when the stone was cleaned in 1999, revealing the original dark grey tint of the rock, the sparkle of its crystalline structure, and a pink vein running across the top left corner. Comparisons with the Clem collection of Egyptian rock samples showed a close resemblance to rock from a small granodiorite quarry at Jebel Tingar on the west bank of the Nile, west of Elephantine in the region of Aswan. The pink vein is typical of granodiorite from this region. The Rosetta Stone is a fragment of a larger stele. No additional fragments were found in later searches of the Rosetta site. Owing to its damaged state, none of the three texts is complete. The top register, composed of Egyptian hieroglyphs, suffered the most damage. Only the last 14 lines of the hieroglyphic text can be seen, all of them are broken on the right side, and 12 of them on the left. Below it, the middle register of Demotic text has survived best. It has 32 lines, of which the first 14 are slightly damaged on the right side. The bottom register of Greek text contains 54 lines, of which the first 27 survive in full, the rest are increasingly fragmentary due to a diagonal break at the bottom right of the stone. The full length of the hieroglyphic text and the total size of the original stele, of which the Rosetta Stone is a fragment, can be estimated based on comparable steles that have survived, including other copies of the same order. The slightly earlier decree of Canopus, erected in 238 BC during the reign of Ptolemy III, is 2,190 mm high and 820 mm wide and contains 36 lines of hieroglyphic text, 73 of Demotic text, and 74 of Greek. The texts are of similar length. From such comparisons, it can be estimated that an additional 14 or 15 lines of hieroglyphic inscription are missing from the top register of the Rosetta Stone, amounting to another 300 mm. In addition to the inscriptions, there would probably have been a scene depicting the king being presented to the gods, topped with a winged disc, as on the Canopus stele. These parallels and a hieroglyphic sign for stellar on the stone itself. All of these discoveries have been groundbreaking indeed. But we still have more groundbreaking discoveries ahead of us. In the heart of England's Midlands, routine task unearthed an extraordinary discovery that has blown away both scientists and everyone else alike. A gigantic prehistoric sea dragon, discovered in the Midlands, has been described as one of the greatest finds in the history of British paleontology. The ichthyosaur, which is about 180 million years old with a skeleton measuring about 10 meters in length and a skull weighing about a ton, is the largest and most complete fossil of its kind ever found in the UK. Joe Davis of the Leicestershire and Rutland Wildlife Trust discovered it during the routine draining of a lagoon island at the Rutland Water Reservoir in February 2021. The first ichthyosaurs, which are called sea dragons because they tend to have very large teeth and eyes, were discovered by the fossil hunter and paleontologist Mary Anning in the early 19th century. Dean Lomax, a paleontologist who has studied the species, said, "Despite the many ichthyosaur fossils found in Britain, it is remarkable to think that the Rutland ichthyosaur is the largest skeleton ever found in the UK. It is a truly unprecedented discovery and one of the greatest finds in British paleontological history." Ichthyosaurs, which were marine reptiles, first appeared about 250 million years ago and went extinct 90 million years ago. They varied in size from 1 to more than 25 meters in length and resembled dolphins in their general body shape. The remains were dug out by a team of experts from around the UK in August and September. Two incomplete and much smaller ichthyosaurs were found during the construction of Rutland Water in the 1970s, but the latest discovery is the first complete skeleton. Mark Evans of the British Antarctic Survey, who has been studying the Jurassic fossil reptiles of Rutland and Leicestershire for more than 20 years, said that even from the first glimpse of the partially exposed fossil, it was clear that it was the largest ichthyosaur discovered in the region. However, it was only after our exploratory dig that we realized that it was practically complete to the tip of the tail, he said. It's a highly significant discovery both nationally and internationally, but also of huge importance to the people of Rutland and the surrounding area. Nigel Larkin, a specialist paleontological conservator, said, "It's not often you are responsible for safely lifting a very important but very fragile fossil weighing that much. It is a responsibility, but I love a challenge." It was a very complex operation to uncover, record, and collect this important specimen safely. Pharaoh Tutankhamun, Tut, for short, ruled over ancient Egypt from about 1333 to 1323 BC. He became king when he was just 9 years old during a challenging time in ancient Egyptian history. Tut's father, Akhenaten, tried to change the religious beliefs of the land. He wanted Egyptians to worship just one god, the sun, called Aten, instead of the 2,000 gods that people had believed in for thousands of years. The priests, elites, and common people probably disliked this change, but they had to follow their pharaoh's orders, or at least appear to. Archaeologists have found small statues of the old gods in people's houses from around this time. After Akhenaten died, 9-year-old Tut took the throne. He repaired the old temples and paid for new statues of the gods, changing the religious practices back to the way things used to be. He even changed his name. His birth name had been Tutankhaten. The last two syllables honored the sun god, but he changed to Tutankhamun after taking the throne. As king, Tut would have participated in religious ceremonies and festivals, gone on hunting trips, learned how to ride horses and drive chariots, and trained in military skills. In 1917, Carter and a wealthy British man, Lord Carnarvon, started searching for Tut, carefully digging in the sand all the way down to the bedrock in each section where they looked so they'd be sure not to miss anything. Years went by without any discoveries, and Carnarvon was ready to give up. Carter asked for just a few more months. 3 days after starting this latest search, the team uncovered what looked like a step buried in the sand. As they removed the sand and debris, they found more steps leading down. Finally, they discovered a plaster doorway stamped with the name, Tutankhamun. But these explorers weren't sure that they'd find anything inside. Almost all the tombs in the valley have been robbed in ancient times, leaving few items behind. Plus, the plaster showed signs of being broken and resealed. But when they peered inside the small hole, they found a tomb almost entirely intact. Carter later wrote, "Details of the room emerged slowly from the mist, strange animals, statues, and gold everywhere, the glint of gold." These discoveries have all provided a rare glimpse into understanding ancient times and civilization. Some can be explained, whilst some still have no logical explanation. This just goes to show the vastness of the world. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, watch another of our interesting videos by clicking on the next video shown on your screen.